10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Competition Plus live again. It's Tuesday night. It is the Power Hour. Hello, I'm Lee Kraft, aka the Monday Morning Racer, and over there, wrong way. Over there, Mr. Dugenay Bland. He's certainly not bland at all. Whether it's here on the Competition Plus Power Hour or on his show, the Not Bland Show, you can find that on Facebook, titled just as that, the Not Bland Show, as the Facebook page. Dugenay, good to have you along for this ride once again. And as folks saw with the start of the show, we're going to have the man that is the fastest funny car driver, the fastest in a nitromethane-powered machine, the fastest in a piston-powered, wheel-driven machine to the 1,000-foot, Mr. Bob Tasca himself on in just a few moments.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a ride. We're going to go real fast here tonight. Mr. 341.68 himself, BT3. I'm excited.
I'm certainly excited. I'm a Ford fan, been a Ford guy all my life, had to be with my dad working with the Pro Stock team back in the early 70s, and earlier than that, running Ford Power with Gene Cromer and the Moonlighter gasser that he was in, and Funny Car. So definitely glad to see Ford get to a barrier first before anyone else, and excited to talk with Bob on all of it, from team driving, Ford itself, and beyond, looking into 2024. And we're going to do that on the show tonight. But feel free, everyone out there, chime in after we're done speaking with Mr. Tasca. We're certainly going to continue the conversation. Where would you might like it to go? There is plenty of drag racing happening this very weekend. We've got Lights Out. We've got World Series of Pro Mod. We have divisional and regional action for the NHRA down at Belrose, Louisiana, at No Problem Raceway, and also out there at Firebird in Phoenix. There is drag racing all around that is kicking off, firing up, and we are certainly in full swing in race season.
It's gonna be fire. It's gonna be fire. I have the Lights Out here in Valdosta, Georgia. Really, it's Cecil, but it's gonna be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. Big deal. And, man, when they come out swinging over there.
They certainly do. They come out flying as well. Yes. And I don't mean just in their ET, but they have figured out how to actually get full-bodied cars to fly.
I've seen that.
Lights Out. Yes, it is absolutely wild for sure. Well, we are going to take a break in just a moment and get Bob Tasca on the show, chat with him for a few moments right here on the Competition Plus Power Hour, which is brought to you by Weldon High Performance. Weldon pumps, they definitely need to be one that you research for your high-performance applications and even aviation applications when you need a pump. More on that later. I do want to bring of note, though, Red Line Synthetic Oils. They are sponsoring the Competition Plus Power Hour. I can remember the first time that I encountered someone that was running Red Line, Doug Foley. I asked him, I said, is that stuff really that good? I see it around a lot. People rave by it. And he said, Lee, I wouldn't run my top fuel dragster without it. Red Line. When you need to go in the Red Line and have confidence to stay in it, Red Line Synthetic Oils is what you want. Bob Tasca, right after this word.
Reliability to drive thousands of miles. Confidence for those who fly high. Redline oil products give you the power to crush the competition and a track record of being the best. Redline oil products. You push it to the limit, we'll protect it.
Bob Tasca, welcome to the Competition Plus Power Hour. Congratulations on the tremendous feed and a tremendous drag race down there in Florida.
Thank you very much, guys. Great to be on. It was a run for the ages, to say the least.
What did that feel like going 341.68? You know, everybody talks about the laid back header days, how that felt. That's fast, dude. Like, what did that feel like?
It was fast. I mean, real fast. I tell people it didn't necessarily pull a lot more G. It just pulled it longer. And that was the difference to get the speed, is we just carried that G force longer. These cars will pull about 6.5 Gs. And it felt really, really good Thursday night. And I get out of the car. I didn't know if I was happy or sad. We actually tied Robert's record to the 100th of a mile per hour. And it was awesome, right? We ran 3:39. I think it was 87 or something like that. And I said, fellas, you couldn't get like 1.3 more, just a little bit more. And they go, boss, we have one more shot. We got one more shot on Friday night. And, it was one of those runs. You had to have the perfect setup. The guys had to do the perfect job. I had to run the perfect line. And you get an opportunity to do something really special. So it was just great. Really, really happy for my team and, Ford Motor Company, all the aerodynamics that they put into this car. PPG was on the car, huge supporter of our program. So it was just a really special night.
Certainly was a special night for you and your team, for all of drag racing. And we've seen the reaction of many, whether they are saying, oh, it's not a record because it wasn't a national event, or, oh, it is a drag racing record, which it certainly is. I'm curious, though, what did Ford Motor Company in particular think about it? I know that you have a close relationship, and we all count you, I think, as that banner ship program for the Blue Oval gang. What was the word from Dearborn?
Well, hey, listen, let me first address some of the naysayers. If I had to pick a place to do it, I would have picked no other place than the All-Star Pro Shootout race with the best of the best, in the best of the best conditions, all together, racers racing, and you go out and do something spectacular like that. There would have been no better place. As far as NHRA goes, it was an NHRA track, and trust me, we're coming for more at an NHRA facility near you. So the record's the record. The first to break 340, everyone was there to see it, and anyone that says different, good luck to them. As far as Ford goes, I think Jim Farley, who's a dear friend of mine, he was pretty excited. He was tweeting it, retweeting it, posting it all over, his social network, across the whole Ford Motor Company platform. And it's a hell of an accomplishment, right? When you look at the barriers, Kenny, the original king of speed, 300, and getting a text from Kenny after you do something like that probably doesn't get any sweeter than that. Kenny's a close friend of mine, and he said, proud to share the king of speed with you. I mean, that's probably the greatest compliment you could ever get from a guy like that. But, he broke 300. He broke 310. Corey McClenathan broke 320. Tony Schumacher broke 330. All dragsters. And we were the first funny car to break a barrier. And it's 25 years later. I mean, that's what I don't think people realize, that 25 years ago, Tony Schumacher broke the 330 barrier. Now, obviously, a lot's happened over the 25 years. The tracks got shorter, rev limiters. They took away the laid-back headers. They've done a lot of things to slow the cars down. But you really can't stop progression. These crew chiefs and teams are so talented, and they're always looking for ways to go faster.
Now, I want to hear from you. I've heard from other media pundits about track prep. I know from hearing from other guys that they've actually had to dial that track in because it was too good, and not what you guys want as far as the stickum goes. What was that track prep like? And how was the tire after that?
So I think what you're saying is true the first couple days of the actual event testing. By the time the actual shootout started, I think the track was pretty much normal. Like, we tuned the car up no different than we would at an NHRA race. I think early that Tuesday, Wednesday, that track was really good, but it really got normal once the sportsman car started running on it. And we felt that it was very much in line with an NHRA track as it went along. So that was the first. What was your second question?
How was the tire after that run?
Oh, that was right. So the tire, everyone had comments like Goodyear's going to pull out at 340 and, it's over. Don't run 340. Well, the first two people to walk up to me were the Goodyear engineers, and I was too excited to spend much time with them. But what I thought was really cool, both Goodyear engineers came up to my trailer. They walked in, and he said, Bob, we wanted you to know that you're the first to do something no one's done before, and we were the first to look at the tires. The tires were awesome.
That's awesome.
They were awesome. The temperatures, they look great. Everyone says we're afraid of 340. We're not afraid of 340 anymore. And I just think it's a tremendous testament to Goodyear. They don't sponsor me. Heck, I give them a whole lot of money. But the engineering that goes into that tire is truly spectacular. And without Goodyear and without nitromethane, we don't have a sport, right? So, we're grateful for what they put into those tires. And, the tires were absolutely perfect. Heck, we're going to run them again in Gainesville.
Well, that's spectacular to hear. And yes, I don't think Goodyear gets enough credit for honestly doing something that no other company wants to touch. And there is hardly any ROI on what they're producing for where it's being put into use. It is spectacular what that tire can hold up to.
Certainly is.
Well, Bob, I know we can continue to talk about the event, and there's plenty more to talk about. My last question concerning what happened down there in Florida is, well, the atmosphere, and what is it that was so different about this event that you all as competitors and car owners want to see translated into other areas of the sport?
Well, I'm just really proud to have been a part of it. It was really, truly something special. I think there was plenty of naysayers out there that said the racers could never come together. We could never get on the same page. We could never pull an event off. That's something that, is beyond racers and the egos. And it was quite contrary to all of that. The racers came together. The sponsors came together. And we put on arguably one of the most spectacular drag races ever. And if you were there, you know what I mean. It was a different vibe. The fans were absolutely spectacular. I can't tell you how many first-time fans that I met at that racetrack. We were selling T-shirts out the back of the trailer. I wasn't part of those, match racing days with my grandfather and what Force and even Tony Pedregon did back in the day. It brought me back to a place that I would have loved to truthfully race that as a kid growing up. And I didn't get that opportunity. So it was awesome. I thought Flow, everyone said, well, it won't be on network TV and the sponsors aren't going to get their exposure. Well, I can tell you this. I didn't even know, truthfully, what Flow was a year ago. Like they said, hey, Flow's going to cover it. I said, who's Flow? And I was just so impressed with the show they put on, the level of professionalism, how they covered the drama in the pits, the top end interviews. Jamie Howe was there. It was just really extremely well done. They had the drone coverage, and it was just an awesome event to be a part of. And if you were there, you kind of knew what I meant. Now, what I hope would carry over, I know NHRA had some officials there. We're going to work hand in hand with them. In fact, we'll have a meeting with them in Gainesville, I'm sure, and just talk about the flow, production, how it went together, how we were involved with it. I think there's a lot to learn. I really do. I think there'll be a lot that they can learn from that event and, hopefully help elevate the sport. That was the spirit of doing this, is to create awareness, elevate the sport, try some things different. Like, you're not going to see chip draws at NHRA. Like, they were going to just test that out of the blue. But I thought that was cool. Like, qualifying, you didn't know who you're going to run first round. You didn't know who you're going to run second round. So there was a lot of drama throughout the whole event, and I just think it was a huge success.
Now, you're the representation of Ford. I think now when you say Ford, you got to think of Tasca. Is there any way or any hope that you would expand your team maybe a 2-car team, maybe you open up and do a pro stock?
So you'll have a much better chance of me doing 2 funny cars than a pro stock. It's just, hey, listen, I have a pro stock license. I was a pro stock driver before a fuel driver. I think the world of what those guys do. You know, a close friend, Matt Hopford. You know, I just got so much respect for what they do. We are working diligently on a second car. I'm not ready to announce it today, but if you were a betting person, bet that you'll see another Tasca funny car before you saw a Tasca Pro Stock.
I love it.
Hey, more nitro being burned is certainly good news, no matter what camp it's coming out of, but certainly the Ford camp with Tasca, that's going to be good to see whenever that may roll out. It's been good to see that you have had a lot of success in your career and recently, but 2023, I'm sure, is a year in which you've got to say it was your best yet, possibly. Go into Pomona, first time ever, you've got a shot to win the championship. And you come out in 2024 and in this pro shootout event, set a standard, break records, and put yourself for the rest of time in drag racing history. People are going to say that man broke a significant barrier, and maybe the last one we see for a very long time. Critical to that success, you pairing together Aaron Brooks and Todd Okuhara. Why and how has that relationship been for you from as you've seen as driver and owner?
You took the words out of my mouth. The only thing Bob Tasca did was pair up 2 guys that I had just so much admiration for, and, you know, sweet serendipity. You know, in that moment, at that time, I was a man without a country. I pretty much lost my entire team other than 2 guys, 2 crew members. Had no crew chiefs, going into the last year of a sponsorship, and had to try to pull it all together. And you had a guy by the name of Aaron Brooks that was, you know, really unemployed. He wasn't full-time. He was part-time racing. You had a guy in Todd Okuhara that was losing his job to my guys that went over there. And I just believed in that moment, and I had talked to a bunch of different people, and a bunch of different people were calling me, that they would be a great fit together. Like, they'd have great chemistry. They would balance each other well. And maybe for one of the first times in my career, I'd have 2 crew chiefs, like legitimate 2 full-blown crew chiefs that really could work together. And the only like real sense that I was ever around was with Austin Coyle and Bernie Federle at the time, and John Medlin. Then they expanded to Jimmy Prock, and the team grew. But, you know, that chemistry was just unbelievable. And as a kid growing up, I was around that. And when Todd and Aaron came together, I literally had people, you know, I won't mention names, but said I was crazy. Like, what are you doing? Like, the terrible pair up. They won't work together. They're opposites in a lot of aspects. And I said, well, that's my decision. You know, I made the decision, and I think you're wrong. And, you know, the history, you know, shows very different from what those naysayers were believing. Aaron Brooks and Todd Okuhara are 2 brilliant minds. They've really fostered in our program. They're the 2 of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. They work an ungodly amount of hours, and they're not afraid to do anything. Like it was like foreign to me to see some crew chiefs come out of their lounge. Like, I had crew chiefs that wouldn't leave the lounge when the car warmed up in the pits. Like, literally, they wouldn't come out. And these guys, like, in testing, I looked down and Aaron Brooks doing the bottom end. I said, Aaron, what the hell are you doing? He said, I just wanted to get back into the flow, and I just want to do the bottom end today. And these guys are all over the car 24/7, and the race car shows how it performs. And it's just, it's a real treat for me. I don't need to drag race. I mean, I do it because I love it. This isn't where I make my money. You know, we got 4 dealerships all over the country. I do this as a passion, a love for the Ford fans, the Ford Motor Company, the Ford dealers that I represent, and to be a part of this team and see what these guys are doing is a real treat for me. I just love hanging out with them, to be honest with you.
You were 13-5 at the end of last season. I don't think there was more that you could have done. I mean, this field is just incredibly good. You come out and hit a home run starting out here at Bradington. What did you guys learn, and what are you going to be able to take from that coming into Gainesville at this first race of the year?
You know, people make a lot about that run in Bradington, but it actually started in Dallas. Everyone, says, you ran 341 and is it real? Well, do you remember we ran 338 change in Dallas? So like we were on the doorstep.
Right.
And we saw that run, and there was so much wrong with that run. Like literally the fuel system wasn't right. There was 2 scuffed pistons. We dropped a hole before the finish line, and it ran 338 miles an hour. And I remember coming back from that run, and Aaron and Todd looked at me, and they weren't even that excited. And I was thrilled, as fast as I've ever been. And they looked at me and they said, we can run 340. I go, what do you mean 340? Because based on what this car did, if we fix this, we got to work on that, we'll go and run 340. And that's what they did all winter. And that run in Bradington was a culmination of what we learned in Dallas, what we worked on through the winter. And we did not do it once. We did it twice. Let's be honest. We ran 339 in the left lane, and then we ran 341 in the right lane. So nobody can say, well, you only did it in the left lane and there was something wrong with the clock. We did it in both lanes. We set the speed records with the backup, and we're going to carry a lot of that into next season. Now, just understand though, the seasons of the race season, I always describe, it's broken into 3 parts, 3 distinctive parts. You have the spring, and the cars that run the best in the spring, they don't always run the best in the summer. But the cars that run the best in the spring pretty much are always the cars that run for the championship in the fall. Because the conditions we see in the first 5 races are very similar to the conditions we see in the last 5 races. And it's very important. That was a very important point for our team last year. We wanted to come out and run hard in those first 5 races, which we did. And that's exactly what we want to do this season. And then the summer can be a real crapshoot. I mean, conditions and the track temperatures and hitting it right, not hitting it right. And then you roll right back in to those 4 races, and you got to get after it. So we have a race car that can get after it. That's why we ran for the championship last year. And I have no doubt we'll run for the championship again this year.
Well, Bob, rolling into Bradington, the Mustang looked a bit different, and you unveiled with Ford, along with their Dark Horse program, of some other fine-looking Mustangs, this good-looking hot rod. Talk about the program with Ford, with the Dark Horse, the other Mustangs involved, and the, sleek, hot look it is.
I mean, it's just Ford's commitment to racing, to drag racing. We got some major news that we're going to announce coming into Gainesville here on a contract extension with Ford that I think is going to make a lot of people really excited about Ford's long-term plans in drag racing. They're committed all over the world. And I was part of that big unveiling in January. And, we're with racers that, from Broncos that crawl up the side of a mountain to, NHRA Mustangs that go 341 miles per hour now. And it's their commitment to racing. It's their loyalty to the passionate fans in all forms of motorsports. But I'm just proud to have them in NHRA racing. I said from the very beginning when I started racing back in 2008 now, my goal was to leave the Tasca family racing tradition and the Ford racing tradition in drag racing a little brighter than I found it. And, that's been my focus all along, and, very proud of what we've done with this program. And trust me, the best is yet to come for this team.
You talk about that Tasca pride in being able to carry that torch. Can you tell us how that makes you feel? I mean, the ascension that your team has been on over the last several years is something to be in awe of, and you're coming into this season, I mean, like a freight train. I mean, it's the trend is up. How does that make you feel, being able to do such things like this?
I guess I learned something from my dear friend Don Schumacher. I'm worried about qualifying at Gainesville. Like just take one step at a time. Just hyper focus. Let's qualify at Gainesville, and then worry about winning first round. And I think, this team and what I've tried to instill is stay real humble, because this sport can turn on you fast. Put the work in when nobody's watching. The preparation, the hours, the time at the shop. That's where we win all our races. When the camera's on and Fox is there and everyone's working hard on Sunday and everyone's trying to win hard on Sunday, who's putting all the work in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? And that's where the teams that have the best chance to win, they just put the most time in. They prepare well and they stay real focused on the next run. Let's get the most out of the next run. And I think I've learned that over my years in racing and some of the best and brightest racers that I've had the privilege to be around. And that's our focus going into this year. We want to make sure that next run, we get the most out of it.
Bob, Drag Racing Mayhem wants to know, what is your favorite New England food? We know there's lobster rolls up there. There's New England clam chowder. The last question for you, what is Bob Tasca's favorite New England meal?
Oh, my favorite New England food, it has to have lobsters in it. Come on now. So I probably could go, I don't do it often. I don't eat a ton of carbs, but you get a nice lobster pasta. It doesn't get much better than that in New England.
I'm with you on that.
I like that. Lobster pasta. Could do that. Well, we know that you're ready to do some more eating out there in NHRA drag racing, and the competition has been served notice that Bob Tasca's got a bad, fast hot rod. Bob, thank you for your time tonight, man.
Thanks, guys. Catch up with you later. Bye.
Later.
Well, Dugenais, we're going to send Mr. Tasca off with taking a look back from the coverage of CompetitionPlus.com from the Pro Shootout and that spectacular run.
Ford Maverick, going for top honors in this category.
Harry. Harry, what was that?
Sounds like that new four-door Maverick. Yeah, it's that new four-door Maverick. Now go back to sleep. You'll see it again in the spring.
What was that?
Sounds like the new four-door Maverick. It is the new four-door Maverick. Now go to sleep, my darling. We will see it again at sunset.
Hey, what was that?
Sounds like the new four-door Maverick. Yeah, it is the new four-door Maverick.
Oh, I gotta see it.
Shut up. You'll see it when you get to be head of the act.
Four-door Maverick, the new simple machine. You can see it now. Ford gives you better ideas.
great Les Mayhew doing the camera work on that pass and for competitionplus.com down there at the pro shootout. His reaction, I think, is representative of us all. Oh my God! Oh my God! There it is. History has been made, and maybe that ad needs to remain history. That was quite very interesting marketing. Cool to see, though, that because the car looked like the car, they could use that advertising for the car. Novel idea there, Mr. Bland.
I agree. That's one of these things that it's a topic of conversation, and I do think we need to get back to that a little bit. Not only help with selling, but it also helped with buying. My great uncle had a Maverick, a four-door Maverick.
Well, Mr. Tasca himself certainly can be attributed to understanding, knowing, putting out their, sell, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. They understand that. I'm sure that there are those that would still hold to, whether you asked a Bob Tasca to a Bob McCosh, who owns a Chevrolet dealership, that if you win on Sunday, you sell on Monday. It's still out there.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating how even then, now, it's pretty much the same model, right? You know what I mean? You win, you advertise, you sell. And it's a little different, a little modern, but the premise is still the same.
That it is. Well, we got a lot of drag racing in store for us. We are not, in fact, waiting for the Gator Nationals. Yes, we're waiting for the Gator Nationals for, well, not even nitro to be burned, in fact, but to see the professional ranks, if you will, racing. Yes, we've got to wait for the famed Gator Nationals firing up the NHRA Mission Foods drag racing series schedule. But drag racing for the NHRA has already got underway. There was divisional action at Orlando down in Florida this past weekend. We have divisional and regional action this weekend in Belrose, Louisiana, and also Phoenix, Arizona. Lights out, World Series of Pro Mod. Drag racing is already, in my opinion, well beyond first gear.
Yeah, it is. And shout out to Joe Costello. That man got himself a round win out there in Orlando. Super cool. I really hope that it continues. But I watched that run. I watched him, and I was super excited for him. That was awesome.
And that's the wonderful thing about drag racing is so many, just about anybody can participate and go win some rounds, win some races. Joe obviously has a lot of experience racing himself, not just covering racing or talking about racing, but he's had a long history in drag racing. And I think I want to give a shout out to Virginia Motorsports Park. They had an interesting program, and other tracks have this program as well, but over the off season, they had Bring Your Daily racing events. Like, it was just intended for daily drivers. Like, don't show up with your drag car. No, you show up with your daily driver, and let's give you the basics of what it is to do in a drag race and how to drag race. And I firmly believe that more people that are introduced to something and do it themselves, they're going to look at other areas within that doing, if you will, and see how they can participate, even if that is buying a fan ticket. I've got to say, I became more of a fan and more of a follower of drag racing, even though I had been since I was in diapers when I started holding a wheel of a junior dragster. It became that much more important, and the hooks sunk that much deeper.
Yeah. I had a good opportunity. My uncle had a 68 Camaro. It was a tube chassis Camaro. He started out with the oval Nova. That thing would always pick the wheels up all the time, but it was when he got that car where you could take the front end off of it. And I was the pseudo crew chief for the car, and just getting it ready every Friday to get ready for Saturday. And that's when you got really into it. You know what I mean? You were able to work on the car and able to see it perform out there on the racetrack. That's when it got me.
Andrew, feel free to put in the comment section which part of the rumor mill you are referring to. We would love to discuss that. I imagine it has to do with the franchise element that was mentioned, but I want to make sure the rumor mill is several rumors, and some of them are a little old now, but the FTI rumor mill, one of the great spots to stop on competitionplus.com to get the scoop of what's happening in the world of drag racing. So much that Bobby Bennett has put out has come to fruition, even if it wasn't a rumor mill. I've even been a part of it. I was the guy that called and said, hey, there's this legend as known as Angel. She's in a Mission Foods fire suit. Something's up here in Bradington.
Yeah, Bobby does an excellent job of putting stuff like that out there. Yeah, he said it's the franchise one.
All right, so apparently right now what's going down in NASCAR, then there's a connection of talks possibly of NHRA drag racing, the professional ranks, moving toward a franchise and/or, I'll say it as they say in NASCAR, charter type of system. Now, in NASCAR, what's happening right now, there's talks about making the charters permanent, which I don't quite understand how you do that. Instead of something apparently being sold and back and forth, or that can be dissolved by NASCAR. NASCAR entities have gone so far to hire a lawyer in an antitrust suit, apparently, to look at that, and you have them pursuing that. It might very well get seriously messy over there. Because, interestingly enough, I think where a lot of this stems from, Mr. Bland, is just about everything TV-wise is up for negotiation. You know, from the NFL side, there's negotiations there. Yes. IndyCar, last week it was announced IndyCar very well may be picked up by Fox Sports. So covering the Indianapolis 500, which is routinely the most watched motorsport event in the world. Anybody picking up that is massive. Well, Fox Sports is in the talk for that. Yet they're also in negotiations with NASCAR. Where does that put the NHRA if IndyCar comes on board? Because NASCAR already steps away past the halfway mark and they go to NBC, but then you'd have a flagship like IndyCar remain. Would that knock NHRA off Fox Sports? So there is so many negotiations going on right now just on the TV element. To the franchise, though, and to your question, Andrew, I personally do not want to see, I don't believe it's the right move for NHRA professional teams to move toward a charter system. And I believe that because I believe it would hurt most of the teams, such as a Doug Foley, a TJ Zizzo. I think it would hurt Jim Dunn Racing. I think it would put up a barrier even beyond the dollar tag price of entering in to NHRA drag racing. I feel that NHRA drag racing in the professional ranks is still one of the easiest ways to enter professional motorsports out there, period. If you have been a successful businessman or woman, you could potentially go out and get yourself a ride and be a professional motorsportist. You're not doing that right now with IndyCar or NASCAR or many of the other platforms. I don't think it is the wisest move.
I agree. That's my biggest problem with NASCAR. It's not. I don't feel that NASCAR is something that I could get into if I wanted to. It's very niche. You know what I mean? It's like you got to know somebody to know somebody. And even that sometimes doesn't work. But I do feel that when you look at the NHRA, you know, all it takes is me marketing myself, taking the time and going to Frank Holly and getting my license, improving myself, and I can be a driver. I can own my own team if I want to, if I'm a good, like you said, a good businessman. I mean, look at Jacob McNeil. Young man gets in, gets an opportunity, then gets in a guy with one of the best guys out there in Buddy Hull to help him be able to buy his own operation. You doing that easy in NASCAR? I don't think so.
No.
And if you do, if you're not successful, and if you can't go out there and you're picking up the rear all the time, you won't be out there very long. So I agree. I wouldn't want that to change in the NHRA. Sure, there's other avenues I think they can do to help things, but I don't think that's it.
I feel when you look at what happened in NASCAR, when they came up with the charter system, the idea there was to eliminate the participants known as start and park. But the start and park cars are entities that, with time, many of them became very strong teams who have charters now, or they are no longer in existence because they were absorbed into other teams. I think one of the best examples, Front Row Motorsports, with Regan Smith winning the Southern 500. Then later on, Martin Truex come on board, and they win a championship in multitude of races. That was a start and park program, all right? And they built it up to become something that eventually was absorbed into Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah.
And I think that what the NHRA needs to work on, and when I say the NHRA, I don't mean just the entity and the sanctioning body, but even the teams out there. How do we help bring up a leverage racing? How do we help bring up a Paul Smith race, all these other entities, and bring them up to being highly competitive for the health of the sport at a high level all the way around? The charter type system, I think, can create a club, a clique, a hedging around of a certain group of asset holders that they become the top people in a sport, allowing no one else to come in. I don't think it's smart.
No. And I spoke with Antron last week about his feeder system, his program, and it's not just helping drivers, but it's also teaching individuals how to be able to market themselves, to help themselves so that they can be successful. And I think that is smart, and more top owners should take that same approach. Because if I can, it's kind of like the saying of, you can give a man a fish, but if you teach him to fish, you know what I mean? And it's like, if you teach these individuals how to do and how to market themselves and how to advocate for themselves to be able to get sponsorships, teach them how to do those things, now you're creating a stronger niche of racers, and you pull up these guys that could use the help. Now you have competition that's strong and even from top to bottom. And I think we're starting to see that. I don't think you can go out. I've said this time and time again. I don't think you can go out here and be the number one qualifier and look over and see number 16 and think, yep, I'm just going to go out here and I'm just going to run my number and he won't be any kind of contest to me. I'm already on the second round. If you do that, you're out of here first round. But I think you'd help out a lot and have those guys running even better if you had some type of a system where you're pulling guys up and assisting them to be able to be one of these big teams, top teams, strong teams.
I agree. I think also a problem we have in modern day motorsports. I see this with NASCAR. I see this with IndyCar F1. There seems to be, and many people bring this up even for those in drag racing, that the drivers are not relatable. And I find this to be the problem because we have got to a place where in racing with those type of brands that if you do not start young, you're never going to make it to the top of the sport.
Yeah.
And when you start young, that also means weeding and combing your personality to carry sponsors being on camera, dealing with negotiations, racecraft, and you get this racer mentality that's not just holding a wheel, but also in communication and how they have a worldview that doesn't relate very well to individuals that clock in at 9 and clock out at 5. You see, what made individuals of the past so great, such as a Dale Earnhardt, is Dale Earnhardt was a lint head. And a lint head, if you don't know what that is, coming from the Southeast, means you worked in the mills. And you were nothing but a person that dealt with all the stuff in a mill. You were a lint head because there's lint in mills. Or you lived on the mill hill and you were nothing. You were poor. You have someone like a Dale Earnhardt seeing racing as his way to escape and make it. And now you have people who, they see racing as what it is that they're supposed to do anyway. They've been doing it their whole life and they have no other experience. And I think that's critical. I can remember many years ago, there was a broadcast from the Southern 500. They asked the drivers, what would you be doing if you weren't driving professionally in NASCAR Cup? And all of them had something to I'd be a roofer, I'd be hanging gutters, or I'd be working at the dealership. I'd probably be working in a mill or something like that. Ask the modern day driver what they would be doing. I imagine they would be clueless because they have not understood anything, many of them, but holding a wheel.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like sometimes we've got that Tiger Woods syndrome. Car was good. I am good. And then plug sponsor and done. And it's like, and it's true. It's like, that doesn't relate to the average guy or girl that goes and works their butt off every day, whether it's, trenching or electrician work or whatever it may be, it just doesn't relate. And I really enjoyed a lot of the driver videos that Courtney Enders did that kind of brought you in to those drivers' lives a little bit to get to know them. But yeah, when you're groomed from a little one to be a race car driver, nobody can relate to that because you don't really have never had to work other than focus on racing and how to build up or promote your sponsor. And that aspect of it, especially, and I think that goes for the younger crowd. That's another problem that doesn't allow those younger people to really get glued to one individual or the other. And you would think it would be easy with social media these days. I mean, that's the way they communicate. That's the way they ingest, different forms of sports or whatever that may be. And not being relatable doesn't really give them a reason to care.
And I will say, I think with F1, NASCAR recently, they have come out with the Netflix style documentaries following their lives. That does help us relate because I think something that people don't realize, they want to compare what happened with Flo and what happens with Fox with the pro shootout. A stream is different from a television broadcast. They are not the same thing. For one, you notice with Flo, they might not have had some of the technology that Fox did, but vice versa, Flo had less time constraints to a Fox.
Yep.
When you're putting something on Fox or Fox Sports 1, you've got a window, and that you got to fit in that window, and that's a lot of trimming, and you're missing things, and there's things you could have added here and things you could have added there. Flow, you got all day, you're streaming, you're right there, you've got the rights to it, you're not fitting in a window. That is a different type of production. So when you see them on TV and it's fitted in that window, you might not get everything that you could if you go to the race, for example, and get that interaction with them or see it on a Netflix style documentary and see them in a different light away from the racetrack and weigh in that mood and weigh in that mindset, because they are human beings and they do
Yes.
enjoy more than racing.
Yes.
But it is nice to see that, and it does help them become more relatable. For example, maybe you are not a Steve Torrance fan, but you recently see that he is a hunter. He enjoys hunting and he enjoys firearms. Maybe you're a hunter and a firearm guy, and you're like, oh, you know what? Maybe I think a little differently about Steve now. He's kind of cool. I don't know. You see that, you see them outside, that can help build fandom for sure.
I agree. Andrew makes a good point too. I'm not interested in that either, Andrew. He talks about it. He doesn't want to see NHRA to become a good old boy club, the country club. Drag racing is so welcoming to everyone, and a charter system would destroy that. Yeah, I agree. And you're right. It doesn't matter if you're out there on Friday night racing your everyday grocery getter, or you went and you built yourself a 9-second car. Everybody's relatable. I'll be the first to say I had a couple fast cars raced on the street. Do not advocate for that. Do not advocate for that. That is wrong. But I did it. And, you can relate to those things because that's what you want to do. And you want to be where those guys are. And I agree with you. It's a different type of a sport. And you really can see yourself doing that, what you're watching. And to me, that's why I don't think I've ever really became a real strong NASCAR fan, because I just didn't think it was attainable.
Right. And, Todd, look, to what you just put in there, I disagree. I don't think Flow was so much better. I think it's so much different.
Yeah.
Because you're doing something different on a stream than you are trying to package into a window.
Todd, different. I will agree with you, though.
Different.
I will agree with him, though. There are some things that NHRA TV can take away from Flow. If I'm paying $150 for this, there's some things that they could do to. I liken it to back in the day, and I don't even know if you still have this now. But you remember when NASCAR used to have? You'd have Dale Earnhardt, you'd have a couple other guys, and you'd have their in-car cameras only, and you could watch just that and listen to that. I liked what that aspect of it when it came to Flow. Now, could NHRA TV do something like that? Possibly. I mean, I don't see why they couldn't. And you can't do it in every pit, but you just kind of rotate the thing and allow people to see what's going on. From week to week, you rotate it. I also think there's, again, I've had conversations about this too. Having more pit reporters to be able to walk the staging lanes. Now, let's be clear, drivers you want something different, you got to cooperate. And some of these guys are not cooperating with us media trying to help promote you out here and to bring fans in to what you're doing in that moment as an athlete. What you're going through at that time in space and time means a lot, and it means a lot to the fan as well. So they have to, it's not just about the NHRA itself, but also you as racers have to cooperate with those in the media who are doing their darndest to try to put you everywhere we can possibly put you, so that more fans can be drawn to your personality and back you.
It has shocked me at times, Dugenet. I have gone to interview individuals, and you know me, I tend to focus more on those who don't get any coverage at all anyway, and yet they're not. Sometimes you'll encounter those that do not want to cooperate with you, and they don't get any interviews anyway, and you're like, oh, well, I guess this is why you don't get any interviews. You're not willing to cooperate. And also, like I thought, some of the things that were packaged as revolutionary, well, they weren't revolutionary. People have talked about these things for a while. I've talked with you, with Darren, others. What about a, staging lanes grid walk type of scenario? But you got to have the drivers willing to roll down their window.
Yep. You got to do it.
You got to have them willing to do that. That's something NHRA and Fox could do. That's something, and I think this event does bring up those questions. And when they talk about atmosphere, like, well, there's a lot of things I imagine that happen there that NHRA 1 is fine with happening and would allow, but the NHRA as a national event touring series does not have direct control over. It's actually in the body of the track, or you as a competitor set the atmosphere more than you think. I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, I do too. It's funny. I know we dabble and a lot of us think back to the old days, but I back in those times, drivers were more open and willing and more engaging. And I know folks think, some of the drivers think that they are, but I'm telling you, as a young man in that time, it is different. I see difference. And with the coverage that is being allowed, and I'll be the first to say, folks like Bobby Bennett giving folks like me, you, and others who are covering this sport now, paving the way for us to be able to continue to expand. So many people are doing so many different things. Just need drivers to cooperate a little bit more.
Yes.
And if that's the case, things take off even more, because look, the NHRA can't do everything. And as we talked about, Fox can't, they've got to pay bills.
Right.
So they're selective in what they can do. But you got to cooperate with the guys like us that are trying to, again, put these drivers anywhere and everywhere we can, where we can reach people.
Right. And let me also express, with adding cameras, it's not that simple. When you're adding equipment, well, you're buying it. When you're adding equipment like cameras, you're running wires. Where will those wires be run? Who is going to man that camera? How is that set up in the production, production trailer? Look, I'll throw this out there. What I do with NHRA.TV, folks, that's not paid. Okay, I do that to try to, in my own way, to help the sport and help the alcohol teams and show even that this is something else that can be done at a regional event and a divisional to add to NHRA.TV. Like, send one dude, me, I'm one dude with a camera and a mic, and I can add just a little bit to the story at a regional or divisional.
And I think that's important.
It can be done. It can be done. It can be showcased. But all of you out there, you got to realize it is not just add another camera, because it's adding a motel room. It's adding a travel expense. It's adding, and I'm kind of dumb and I'm doing it and I'm bumming it and creating weird deals and all of that nature. But nonetheless, that's what it has took, and it can be done. But it takes more than just adding a camera. Look, Dugenais, I have to wonder, remember, this was a test session. There were no points involved.
Right.
I wonder if the teams really would allow a camera in their pit during competition.
I think if they want growth of the sport, they should. I mean, everybody's running the same stuff. It's just all about how you put it together, and then how you come to a agreement on what this tune-up should be to get this set car down the racetrack. Everybody's doing the exact same thing. I mean, it's kind of like people, you see the guys over there, they're holding their little play sheet, and sometimes you can see the back of it. Them guys don't care. Half of these guys are running the same style of offense. It's just called something else. We call it Spider 3Y Banana. They call it Mud Dog.
Whatever.
Same play though.
Same play.
So I mean, I think. Well, I know back in the day in Pro Stock, boy, they were doing everything they can to cover up stuff. I just don't see that being necessary. Everybody's running the same stuff. Alan Johnson, John Force, everybody's supplying something. You've got something from one of those guys, Don Schumacher. Like, come on, man. Like, it shouldn't be a big deal.
I agree. I don't think it should be a big deal.
But it would be.
But it would be, and it could be. And I think, you mentioned Pro Stock. Remember, it's a rule today from the NHRA, guys. You got to have that motor facing out front. They would want it turned the other way to try to keep it. And I've seen the towel come out, and I'm like, guys, like, really? Come on. Come on.
It
Really?
ain't that innovative like it was back in the day. Like
No,
everybody's running the
I'm
same
sorry.
stuff.
The drama that can be out there at times. And then when it comes to, seeing something visible as, Drag Racing Mayhem puts out, Elite had one at Indy. Yes, they did. They tried that out with Flow. Look, why does the NHRA have to do it? Why don't the teams do it?
I don't see why not.
Why not?
I don't see why not. I mean, like I said, it adds another element. And again, you talk about you having to run certain things. You're having to. I mean, we barely got enough internet to survive in the in the media room half the time.
Now that's another problem. I can tell you with Funny Car Chaos and going to some of these tracks, it is tough to. Like, okay, here's one track. I think of Shady Side. Love going to Shady Side for Southeast Gassers Association. But when I go down there, and it is going down, you're going down to the creek side. The track runs right next to a creek. You're going down. When you get down, there is no cell service. So I make my post before I go down, and then I have no other posts until I come up. And that is a reality. Matt Clark, that's just it. I don't believe any teams live stream from their pits, but many of them have they have internet because they're getting weather data and look, set a camera up, talk to somebody, get it going.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I really do. I think that would add another element. And I think this year they're allowing them to sell special track specific gear.
That'd be great
this year from the trailers this year. I think I heard Ron Capps talking about that. I think that's something that is missing. That personable deal with the driver, the team, to really get folks latched on to their guy. But yeah, why not? And like you talked about with the Lucas Oil Series stuff, little things like that help people get involved and have a why. Because right now, other than Angel, if you don't ever watch them, that's probably the only person you know. Right. And there's tons of great personalities, great drivers in top alcohol and top in alcohol dragsters. So it's just a matter of being able to be able to be showcased. And again, it's based on time. You only got so much time. So, it's difficult for them to be really showcased the way they should, because again, there's good racing over there, man. I know great racing. Don't get up when they go out there. I love watching them run as well. Yes,
great racing. There's a lot that can be changed. It's not just one thing. We're talking about you're talking about like specifically coverage. There's so much, and I don't think it's just NHRA. I think it's a little bit NHRA. I think it's a little bit of Fox. I think it's a little bit NHRA.TV. I have to agree with Drag Racing Mayhem. NHRA.TV could offer a lot more that is not live racing, far as the old races and having them up there for you to go watch and view. I agree with that. I think that needs to be worked on. And I understand there's the Roku channel that you can watch, but it is eventually
it's on Sling now too.
Oh, on Sling, but eventually they rotate through the race you saw.
Yeah,
it may take a while, but it's going to happen. Okay, but if they would put out there on NHRA.TV that database of old races, I think that would be great. I think it would be wise. I know Brian Lone does a great job with the Insider podcast, and occasionally they will stream it, but it would be great to see a routinely streamed NHRA show.
I have a great model. I have a great idea for that too. I like this. I like the model that the NASCAR race day does. I think you got to have a reporter or somebody like myself. You have a crew chief, a former crew chief, or you can have a former crew guy, or a former team owner, a former driver, and a crew chief. You have those guys. They do the more technical stuff. The reporter just guides the thing, and then you at the end of let's say Gainesville, you got that time. They have an opportunity to bring a driver on, talk about that win or whatever the case may be. Maybe don't talk to the winner. Maybe talk to the runner-up person. Doesn't matter. Talk about that race day, what they went through. Maybe there's some mishap that happened. You can talk to those people. You get a story. You run a little TV snippet, kind of how like ESPN and Fox sits down with players, and you see those run before the games. You have a show that does that. Have a show before the race and a show after the race, and I think that would enable individuals to be able to.
And we just lost Mr. Bland in the blink of an eye. Thus, it is with live shows from time to time. He's back in the green room, and we will bring him on to finish that thought now.
That would enable a lot of people to really get the inside of what's going on. Allow these drivers to display themselves a little bit more.
Yes.
It's educational. That's what I look at it as. It's educational, educating the fan base, and that's important. And we see it all over stick and ball sports, and I still think that can apply here. And I think Bob Tasca talking today, when he talked about taking it one race at a time, it doesn't that sound familiar, ladies and gentlemen? We hear quarterbacks talk about it. We hear coaches talk about it. We hear pitchers talk about it. We hear managers talk about it. These guys and girls are athletes, and that's the way they operate. And being able to display that even more, especially in the sport of drag racing, would exponentially grow the sport tremendously.
No, I agree. And look, having those type of shows, even if they were under, behind the paywall of NHRA.TV, they have them. I mean, and put some different personnel in, and showcase talents. And look, it's out there. It is out there.
And I'm going to say this. There's too many of us right now, like this show that Bobby puts together, like my show, that are all not the same. How about promoting those? How about sharing those? How about helping out? Because we're providing a product that isn't the same product that you're providing.
Right.
Even the guys under your umbrella, it's not the same product that they're providing.
Right.
It's a lane for everyone.
Right.
How about helping those things out? Because you know what? That's displaying and putting your drivers on display. And we're also putting drivers on display that don't get any airtime at the top end, and allowing them to plug their sponsors, talk about who they are, and get fans involved and going to their trailer and rooting for them.
Yeah, I mean, why not? It doesn't have to be on the latest news, but in other sources, you can hear from this driver over here and over there, and so on. Why not? And hear from them, or like, for example, Bobby Bennett. You can read this interview with Glenn Cromwell. Well, somewhere on NHRA.com should be, hey, there was this interview with our president.
Yes.
And this is the link to it, or take excerpts from it or something and mention vice versa. Why not? I think that certainly should be looked into. And I want to say this on Bottom Line, though. For that pro event to be put on through Flow, well, I want you all in the future to take a really good hard look at the drag racing properties on Flow, and look at the properties that were there on 2023 and what will be on in 2024. And you'll notice less. It took Bottom Line. It always takes Bottom Line.
Yeah. Yep.
Whether that's good or not for the sport of drag racing remains to be seen.
That is true. That's very true. Because at the end of the day, that's always what it's all about. And Lonnie, I agree. Jack was excellent. Jack, the first time I met that guy, it was after, I think he qualified #1 in Gainesville. And I just like listening to his wealth of knowledge and his understanding of not just the driver, but he understands the He understands the working man side of the crew side. He understands how the car works, operates. It's just how he articulates that. It's the average person that doesn't know jack about, no pun intended, about anything about a nitro car could understand exactly what was going on from start to finish. I thought it was excellent, but that guy is amazing with his knowledge of what he knows with these nitro cars.
Mr. Bland, anything else before we close the show out here tonight?
Hey, it's a lot of drag racing, ladies and gentlemen, coming up. Support it. That's all I have for you. Support it. Drag racing is at its all-time greatest, I think, right now. And as we come into this NHRA season, once again, we're talking about how great this season's going to be. Man, get locked in. Like Monday Morning Racer said, there's plenty of drag racing leading up. It's going to give you your fix. Support it. Get out there. Support it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. 2024 is going to be electrifying, I tell you what.
It certainly is. And for all the yakking we do, and we may express some negative takes with the desire of positive outcome within and for the sport, the fact is, and I believe it is a fact, I don't believe it's just a subjective or objective outview. Drag racing is at its best right now concerning all that there is, the competitive nature amongst all the bodies that there is, in every flavor that you can taste, from NHRA, Mission Foods, professional drag racing, to Lucas Oil Sportsman Racing, to Nitro and Funny Car Chaos, to World Series of Pro Mod, to divisionals, to you name it. Just drag it. Wow, Drag and Drive has exploded. What a great scene. Back of the track, no prep racing. Yes. It is so good right now. I mean, this very weekend, and I'm not even expressing all of it. I'm sure I am missing races, but in Florida, you can buy a ticket to the World Series of Pro Mod and see spectacular door slammer action. You can see spectacular door slammer action there in southern Georgia in Valdosta, South Georgia Motorsports Park. Continuing there on the Gulf Coast, but a little bit further west, Belle Rose, Louisiana, No Problem Raceway. You can smell nitro being burned with top alcohol competitors and floppers running and other cars such as Super Gas and Super Stock and so on in divisional. Same there out there at Firebird in Phoenix. It is happening everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. March meets right around the corner. Yeah. Baby Gators, I mean, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's good. So good.
That it is. Well, folks, it's been good to be with you all. It is all brought to you by Weldon High Performance. I'm Lee Kraft, a.k.a. the Monday Morning Racer. Over there is Dujanay Bland. Catch him coming up when, Dujanay?
It'll be Wednesday at 7 o'clock. We're going to have Jim Overhofer and Austin Prock.
All right. It's going to be a good show on the Not Bland Show. Thank you all for tuning in. Peace out.
Competition Products, your source for hardcore engine parts for street, strip, and oval track. Our free catalog is packed with hundreds of product lines from the best-known manufacturers in the performance industry. Lowest prices guaranteed. Free shipping and handling on all orders over $149 in the continental U.S. Need expert advice? Our knowledgeable staff is just a phone call away. Competition Products, race parts sold by racers since 1970.